What is up, NFL fans, and welcome back to another episode of The Way We See It. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Wesley Coleman, my best friend, Wesley Coleman. What's up, Wesley? How's it going?
What's up, man? How are you? Doing
Fine.
good.
Some say you're my only friend, but it's still a friend
I've
nonetheless. And
heard
I'm
I've
glad.
heard that.
Have you? It's making its rounds. Oh my gosh. Well, we won't get into all that. That's a little side story there, but I want to talk to you about something that has been really the only main talking point surrounding the NFL. We're not talking preseason. We're talking about these player versus ownership battles. And when I'm talking about battles, you know what I'm talking about. There's three main ones right now happening as of this being recorded in the National Football League. Micah Parsons, the tenuous situation in Dallas. You got Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati, and you've got Terry McLaurin in Washington. Before we get to the details here and our thoughts, I want to ask, what do you think about those three situations?
I mean, they're all, I think, similar. You got three players that truly are at the top of the league in their position, with whether it be stats put up, also guys who, have been with their team for, if not all of their career, for most of their career. Obviously, Trey Hendrickson started off with the Saints, where he never really got a chance to start, which is another great job by the Saints. Who should have been Defensive Player of the Year last year? Zach Bond never got a chance to start for the Saints and goes on to be, the best linebacker in football.
Yes.
But they're all at the top of their game. Micah Parsons is a little bit younger than Trey Hendrickson and Terry McLaurin. The two of them trying to get paid at the top of their position when they're a little bit past at the end of the prime of their career, I guess. I don't want to say they're old, but they're getting there. But they're all similar positions. I mean, they're all guys who, looking at stats and looking at their place on the team, deserve to be in the top echelon of pay.
Now, my question is everyone looks at this, and it is, in a way, it's ownership / team / organization versus player, and that's exactly what these negotiations are. Before we talk about potential winners, do you think that any of these three might actually be packaged in a trade? Because a lot of people say, no, that's ridiculous. And then I go back as a Steelers fan and say, I never would have guessed that Minka Fitzpatrick got traded before training camp and preseason started. So it does happen. It's rare anymore in today's NFL. But do you think any of these three players might actually be dealt for draft capital or anything like that?
I think there's a 0% chance that any of the three of them are traded before week one.
Okay.
Micah Parsons is the only one that I guess Trey Hendrickson too. There was a route to trading them before the draft. Micah Parsons would have been such a huge. I think the fact that Trey Hendrickson is in Cincinnati and Micah Parsons is in Dallas, neither one of them is getting traded. And all three of these teams, one thing we didn't mention is all three of these teams are teams that are intent on making the playoffs, competing, trying to win their division, wanting to win a Super Bowl. Like, these are three teams that expect to be in the playoffs.
Absolutely. And so if we all agree, and I agree with you, I don't think any of these players are traded. If none of them are traded, it's going to come down to, do they get what they desire? And that's going to be a difficult question and scenario for each one of these. For instance, we've talked about it before. If Trey Hendrickson gets paid even close to what the top edge rushers are getting paid, how do the Bengals maneuver that with all of the money they've put into the offense? We know with the offensive three that we're talking about, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow. I don't know how that works out, but the question I want to ask before we dive into these individually, do you think players are winning these quote-unquote battles, these contractual battles, that they want something, they want to be paid what they feel like they're deserved? Do you think players are getting the better of these quote-unquote battles?
I mean, they win 100% of the time because they either get the money they want or they go to a different team and get the money they want. There is a team in the NFL willing to pay all three of these guys that money. And there's probably teams that are willing to pay some draft capital to trade for them and then pay them that money. So, the players are, essentially undefeated when it comes to this, as long as they have a semi-realistic view of the worth. And again, I think all three of these players do get maybe not the contract that's in their head today, but they're all going to get paid. And also, it helps with Micah Parsons that Jerry Jones has lost every single one of these battles. I mean, He's been supposed to sign somebody 2 or 3 years. He says we're going to wait, we're going to do this, and then he ends up all of the players end up. I mean, Dak Prescott's the highest paid player in football for this season. CeeDee Lamb's getting paid big money. Like they're all gonna get paid.
And Jerry Jones is trying every tactic possible. It's like, well, what if I had these players without their agents one-on-one and I could kind of like, let's talk some negotiation. That's shady business, in my opinion.
Shady and shouldn't be okay. The NFLPA should have filed complaints on him years ago.
For a lot of things, but this would just be one of them. And I think for me, I do have to ask though, like you think about, and this is something Coach Kevin Smith brought up on one of his podcasts, and he said, the Cowboys, the last time they were relevant, what did they do? They traded a marquee player, Herschel Walker, to the Vikings, and they were able to get a ton of draft capital, which became the nucleus of that 90s Dallas team. I'm not saying that Micah Parsons would get that type of haul, but do you think the Cowboys, although I think they think they're in win now mode, do you think they would even entertain, wow, a team is willing to give us a first and maybe a second the following year for Micah Parsons? Let's pull the trigger on a trade. Do you think they would even entertain that?
I mean, no, I don't think they would trade him for a first and a second. Considering that they've got him for 3 more years. He's got a contract this year, and they can tag him for the next 2. And he's not going to sit out years to not have eligibility. Like as far as short term, the Cowboys do hold the cards if they can make him show up, sort of. I mean, if he wants to make any money. But no, I don't think a first and a second is what they would trade him for. I think that would be what would be reasonable as far as the trade for him. And you might be able to find a team that jumps into something like that, maybe. Yeah. I mean, a team like the Bengals. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's I think that there are teams like that think that they're a big player away. The Buccaneers probably think that they are a player like that. The Panthers are a team that if Bryce Young takes a step, they probably think they need that kind of help on and they have the money to spend on it. I think there's teams that would jump in and be willing to pay decent capital for Parsons. He's also the younger of these 3.
Yeah. And Hendrickson's deal, we thought that was very tenuous, but it seems to have died down now. But I'm really curious what this deal is going to look like. I agree he's not going to go anywhere. If he is even remotely thinking TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby money, I don't know how the Bengals do that. I honest to God don't know how they do that. You could put void years maybe at the very end of the contract and just say we're going to max it out and then we'll just push it down the road. That's possible. That's how the salary cap works, man. What do you think about that situation?
I mean, you're also talking about he's got 17 and a half sacks last year. There's nobody has more sacks than Trey Hendrickson in the NFL over it's either 3, 4, 5 years. It's recent thing. And in considering that, like me and you talked about with TJ Watt, like a little bit of a down year last year, but if you look at 6 years, he's the best. Trey Hendrickson last year led the league in sacks.
Correct.
And he's been kind of disrespected for his career. Like he was in the Saints. I mean, he had good numbers, but they're like, oh, it's because the other guys on the defensive line were getting so much attention. And he's got short arms, so he can't get. Well, you know what? He's the best at sacking the quarterback in the NFL the last 3 or 4 years. He stands a right to not want to take a deal, but if he wants to be in Cincinnati, there only is so much they can do.
Yeah. And I think it's funny because we're talking about Micah Parsons. I feel like there were bridges burned in the post that he put out there with the Cowboys and Jerry Jones. They'll find a way to make things right contractually, and he'll be happy because he'll be getting paid a lot of money. But man, the stuff that's happened and the stuff that he put out there publicly, that's stuff that people remember.
Yep.
Players remember. And so that's interesting. Terry McLaurin's situation is the one that no one's really talking about. He feels disrespected. He wants paid. The production is there. You talked about the age. Okay, he's on the cusp of he's entering that maybe final last big contract of his career. I think they get a deal done, yes?
Yeah, they have to for multiple reasons. The one, they got a young up and ascending quarterback that went and knocked Detroit out in the playoffs last year, and they've got high hopes and dreams for what they can be, and it rests on Jaden Daniels being able to move this offense. Terry McLaurin, has had insane numbers that he's put up with okay quarterbacks for years and years and years. And the thing that Terry McLaurin's crazy is I think that he's never played with a second receiver that had 700 yards receiving. Or he hasn't in the last 4 or 5 years or something like that. It's insane. Like that's the only
awful,
option.
By the way, that's awful.
He's the only option for them, and he still does it. The thing hurting Terry McLaurin is he's 31 years old. And it's just, and I think the Commanders probably have respectfully said, like, we love you, you're great, but you're 31. Like, we're just not going to pay you $30 million a year. I think that they can get him in the mid-20s and be good with it. And I think that he's trying to get paid for what he's already done, and that's just maybe he gets a boost because of that, but they have to have him. Of these guys, he's the most important one of this, because you know what? If the Bengals lose Trey Hendrickson, they're going to go try and outscore you. If they re-sign Trey Hendrickson, they're going to try and outscore you. It's
facts. Those are facts. Those are factual statements.
And the Commanders, without Jaden Daniels having somebody to throw to and a number one receiver, me and you wanted them to go after, Deebo Samuel can't be their number one.
No.
That doesn't work. So they have to get a deal with him. They have to let him and Jaden Daniels get closer and build a bigger rapport and get together on the field.
So we'll see how these things play out. And you bring up Jaden Daniels. I'm going to switch gears and talk about another team that's had a tenuous quarterback situation. What do you think about the Browns, man? So we talked about the Browns a lot with the fact that they drafted 2 quarterbacks in 2025, Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd, Shedeur Sanders in the 5th, but they had also traded for Kenny Pickett with the Philadelphia Eagles prior to that, and they signed Joe Flacco. And now the majority of those players that I just named are injured in some way, shape, or form. Dylan Gabriel's got a hamstring. Kenny Pickett has a hamstring. Shedeur Sanders has shoulder soreness. That leaves them just Joe Flacco, and they signed Huntley. Snoop Huntley, that's what he goes by. So to just have a camp body, what is going on in Cleveland? That has gone from bad to worse, in my opinion. Give me the state of the Browns quarterback situation.
Well, you didn't even mention QB1.
I said Flacco.
Deshaun Watson. Like, you didn't even mention.
Shut up.
You didn't even mention QB1.
Is he on their depth chart, by the way?
Yeah, of course.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Make it make sense. I hear that Kenny Pickett's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And is expected to play. You just got to keep Joe Flacco healthy for the playoffs. Once you just piece it together and you get there, and then you start Joe and everything's good. They're a mess. Tying in with the last conversation, why did they sign Myles Garrett? What are they trying to do? They don't have a football team around that. Why are you paying a defensive end $40 million a year when your team doesn't have a route to success, or playoffs or winning division? It's weird to play in that space when you don't belong.
People forget about Myles Garrett because it happened so early in the process. It was Super Bowl week when he put out a public statement and went on Radio Row and told everyone with a microphone, I want out of Cleveland. I hate it.
Demanded a trade.
And then they're like, well, we'll give you everything that you could possibly want. He's like, fine, I'll stay. And people forget about this because now we're talking about Micah Parsons and all those other players that we started the show with. The Browns are a nightmare organization. And let me ask you this. I think I know the answer. Fast forward the tape to next year, this time, 2026, is Kevin Stefanski the head coach of the Cleveland Browns?
No, I think I talked about this last week. I think that at some point, I get it, there's all these things going wrong, and he's gotten a pass for all the things going wrong. But I think they're going to be really, really bad this year, and I think that a head's got to roll, and if for no other reason, just to show your fan base that you haven't given up.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's Stefanski that signed Deshaun Watson to that contract. I
No,
don't think it's
right.
Stefanski that signed Myles Garrett to that contract. I think it's an owner that's like, we're going to get this deal done. And if you're a football person, you're probably thinking, what are you doing? We can't make this contract. This is an insane contract. And they do it anyway. So the Browns are always going to brown, it seems like. But let's switch topics and let's go to the list. The list that happened every single year, every single offseason. Everyone talks about lists, whether it's a top 10 quarterback list or positional list, or it's the top 100 by the NFL, which I think they're down to the top 40. They haven't announced that yet.
It's number 49. They've done 49 through 100.
All right. First and foremost, do you put any stock into this list?
Oh, I mean, like, I don't care.
It's entertaining. I'm not saying is it not entertaining. I'm saying, do you put any stock into this list? Because this list is done by the players.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's better that you're getting, the players' opinion on who they play against and stuff like that. I do like that. But I mean, it is what it is. It's fun. It's fun to talk about and see how many players from your team get in the top 100 or is Patrick Mahomes number one still, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'll follow it. I know I always track where the Steelers are. Steelers have had 2 players already in the top 100, and when I saw that Patrick Queen was 75 and Cam Hayward, who had a unbelievable renaissance season late in his career, was 83, I believe, I was like, this is backwards. This is backwards. You should flip those 2 players. Cam Hayward was that good last year. Patrick Queen was okay, but not that great. Any surprises for you so far?
How about Jerry Jeudy of the Browns being 82nd, right above Cam Hayward? You think which one of them's gonna have a better year this year?
Well, we talked about the quarterback situation in Cleveland. I'll go with Cam, but still, yeah, it's. I don't know what the criteria is. I know there's a voting process where players get ballots and they can just. Is it a point system? Do you know the answer to that question?
No idea.
Love it. Any other surprises that you've seen on this list?
So obviously, what'll always surprise me is that you go and listen. I'll complain about how high salaries are getting. I'll think that they're out of control. But then there's times when I'll sit and say like certain things of like you look at the bottom of the top 100 and you realize there's not 100 incredible football players in the planet.
Yeah.
And just the same thing, you know what? Of billions and billions of people and people understanding that quarterbacks are making $50 and $60 million a year, there's not 20 good quarterbacks on the planet that can play in the NFL. And it's just funny. I mean, when you're talking about the top, I mean, number 100, Lad McConkey. Okay. I mean,
really?
Yeah, he plays football. I mean, number 92, Jesse Bates, the safety from the Falcons. Tua is number 91. So I'm just saying, like, there's not, of all of this money and all, there's not 100 people that you're like, okay, wow, we got 100 people that are just belonging there. Of the recent numbers that came out, obviously Terry McLaurin that we just talked about is number 52.
Yep.
I will say Joe Mixon, number 58. I've heard that Joe Mixon's done. I've heard that there's health problems, and I heard that there may be a spot opening there in the top 60 because
wow,
he's not doing okay. But even like Cooper DeJean, cornerback, that sure he made some plays in the Super Bowl, but rookie number 60. What I mean, like it is crazy how top heavy most of these lists get.
Fellow Eagles defensive back rookie Quinyon Mitchell, 49. What are we doing?
I mean, you got Bo Nix at 64. I mean, so
Bo Nix at 64. I understand he had a good year, but what are we doing? I think the NFL, and they're doing this on purpose. They want us to talk about it. They want us to say that list is BS. I think it would be better if they actually broke it down almost positionally and said to the players, give me your top 10 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Give me your top 10 corners. And then just do top 10 lists for those. And you can still do it the same way. I do find it awesome to watch the videos where the players are talking about their peers and they're showing highlights and stuff. I think it's unbelievably entertaining. I'm not saying that. But how you can have a Quinyon Mitchell or a Cooper DeJean above a Bo Nix, a quarterback in the NFL who was a rookie and got his team way better than a lot of people ever expected in terms of production and where they're thinking in year 2, above Jordan Love, who got his team to the postseason. Like, this is just insane. It's insane. It's insanity to me. I don't know. Christian McCaffrey at 73, the guy barely played last year.
Or the year before.
What are we talking about? How is he 73? You know, it's just unbelievable that, you know, and then T. Higgins is 77, and he actually did play last year and got himself a boatload of money. I don't know, man. I could go off on this list for a while.
Yeah, I think that we can knock it and complain about it. And again, like you said, that's probably what they want us to do. So,
Yes.
um, and to be fair, I wouldn't be looking at the list if we didn't do this show.
Same. Totally same. Unless the Steeler winds up, and I don't even find out about it until I see it on like social media. Like, oh, they're still doing that.
So just so is Aaron Rodgers going to be in the top 48?
Oh my gosh!
There's no way.
I wouldn't think so.
You wouldn't think so, no.
But you would think he'd be in the top 100. He didn't have a horrible year last year, statistically, individually speaking.
Right.
We'll
Yeah.
see.
Personally.
Well, where's TJ Watt going to land is going to be interesting
Yeah. I mean,
because he isn't on the list. So,
after Myles Garrett.
Oh, I'm sure he'll take that personal too. He'll tweet about it. So, last question here. I want to get your take on this because fantasy football season is really ramping up. A lot of people were having their drafts. I got to be honest with you. I don't do traditional fantasy football anymore. I haven't done traditional fantasy football in almost a decade.
What is non-traditional fantasy football?
I just do daily fantasy. So
okay.
I'm in a league every week. You have a FanDuel. You got your salary cap. You can pick a new player every single week. It's who puts together the best roster that week. You can do daily fantasy.
That seems like a lot of work having to get in there so often. Like, I mean, does that like cut into your golf schedule?
No, I can do it on the golf course if I want to.
Okay.
But come on, man, you take it easy. But anyways, so I like daily fantasy football.
Yeah.
Do you still play traditional fantasy football?
I do.
Do you think that it's dying at all with the it's almost legal everywhere with legalized gambling? Do you think people are abandoning traditional fantasy, maybe just focusing on their parlays every week?
No, I think that if you know people that are into gambling, like it can seem that way, but it's just that the average NFL fan, and when I say average, I'm talking, 85% of NFL fans they know about fantasy football. They know about how they can pay their league fee once a year and they can do fantasy football. They have no idea about gambling, which app to download, how to do it. But even if they did, they would be terrible at it. And so they would quit after, not realizing that they're not even ever going to hit 50% of their picks, even though they all think they're really, really smart.
Yeah.
So it's, I think that if it becomes more accessible in their area and they find out how approachable it is, they might try it for a couple of, the first couple months of the year and then realize that they're terrible at it and go back to fantasy.
So let me ask you, what is the draw for traditional fantasy football for you? Because you still do it. I know a lot of people, they have a core group of guys, they're buddies, and they all have a league, and I get that. That's still fun. What is the draw for fantasy football still for you in 2025?
I mean, humiliating my friends and trash talk and just letting them know that I'm better than them is the main motivation. The money, though, is nice. The money that you win is nice, but it's just more about like letting people know that I'm better than them, smarter than them.
So what? Let's tout the record. Have you won like the last 3 seasons or something? The championship?
I've won a couple of. I've got 3 leagues that are kind of my main leagues that I'm in now. I've joined another bigger payout league that's this year will be the first year of it, which was surprising because I've been cutting. Basically, I've only cut to higher money leagues the last few years. So I don't want to play free fantasy football. I don't have time for it. Right. Cuts into my pickleball schedule. But are
you a pickleballer?
Never. I've played once.
Okay,
that's for like 45 minutes. But it's the fastest growing sport in the world. Of course, I play. No, I have not. No, it's I like it, but also what I've gotten to is just with how busy life is that like it's good for me is that I can really check in on it like once a week to set, and then I can right before Sunday I can go check again to see like who's in and out and all, and so it doesn't take a lot of my time, and I don't have to check on it every single day.
I check on my daily fantasy like it's maybe I don't know before the 1:00 games. I'll set my roster at 12. Yep. By then I know who's in, who's out, who's hurt, who's not. I just go through. You got the salary cap. I don't spend a lot of time on it. I know a lot of people do, but I've been successful not spending a lot of time on it. So, all right, Wesley, who do the Saints have in preseason week 1? Tell me you know.
We're going to the Chargers, so we were supposed to have joint practices for like 5 of 8 days, but then apparently very smart head coach decided that they were not going to practice with the Saints at all. So we went from spending a week with a really good team trying to get better to 0 joint practices with the team. But
Harbaugh said he didn't want to play with good sisters of the poor. Let's just practice against our own team.
Right. It's August 10th, Saints and Chargers.
Okay, cool. Steelers are this Saturday night at Jacksonville. So we'll be interesting to see if Travis Hunter plays both sides of the football, how much he plays. Does Trevor Lawrence play? There's some storylines there for sure. Will Aaron Rodgers play? Mike Tomlin hasn't spoken to the media yet. I bet he plays a series. I bet they get him out there. They've struggled in camp, so I think they want to get some cohesion. But we'll see. But other than
the Saints have the Jaguars in week 2 of fantasy. So
fantasy, you mean the preseason?
In preseason, yeah, fantasy.
You can call it fantasy. It's
preseason, that'll be the Saints' first home game of the preseason is hosting the Jaguars.
All right. Well, speaking of your Saints coverage, how can we find you out there?
You can find me on X at WhoDatWesley13. It's at the Dome Patrol podcast. So find it on X at Dome Patrol PCast. Jeff, where can we find you in your Steelers coverage?
Yeah, you can find me at the Steel Curtain Network anywhere you get your podcast or steelcurtainnetwork.com. And you can find me on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. But that's a wrap for another episode of The Way We See It. We are getting really close to having your viewing pleasure return. I'm excited for that. Wesley, man, we'll talk next week. Take it easy.
See you next week.